It is like midnight right now. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So continuing on with the chemotherapy mini series, I wanted to get into a little bit of information about central lines, specifically the two that I had. So essentially what a PICC line is it's an external or peripheral IV. It's not really an IV. Let me give you the exact definition. A peripherally inserted central catheter in a form of intravenous access that can be used for a prolonged period of time. That's what it is. So essentially it goes in your arm here, and then the tube goes kind of like this inside of your vein and empties out into your main kind of blood cavity here. So when you're doing your chemo treatment, your veins don't have to get destroyed from the poison because it's actually going through this tube. So it's like, you know, your vein, and the tube is like, it's like another tube inside your vein. And I'll insert a picture right here of what it looked like when I first got it. And I say first because it changed later on. So when I first got it, it was really convenient because they basically draw blood from there. They can inject the chemo as well as any IV fluids and any medication you need that you might need through your veins. They could just put it right into your PICC line. And all you have to do is get it cleaned, and the bandage and the adhesive tape that they put over to make it stay in place. You just have to get that changed once a week or twice a week. And then every time you go for your treatment, they basically kind of like clean it out. And by what I mean by clean is they just do like a little bit of like a saline rinse where they draw the blood and then they kind of push it back through with saline. So just kind of cleans it out, make sure you don't get any clogs, because what happens is, as we all know, blood coagulates, and sometimes after your treatment there can be like residual blood left in the vein, and what'll happen is it'll clog up, and then you'll have to get your line removed and a new one inserted, and no one wants that to happen because that's just a shit show. I ended up getting a horrible infected rash, and that's why my arm is kind of like permanently messed up. So let me show you guys. So I actually had two PICC lines. This is where the first one was here. No, the first one was here. I don't know if you can see that kind of mark right there. And then the second one was here. But as you can see, like my arm, okay, I'm sorry, it's like kind of flabby. But it's all like scarred with like these marks and discolored. And on this side you can see too, I have all this like scarring. So what ended up happening was I had an I think it was an allergic reaction to the adhesive. PICC line sits on your arm in like a little, almost like a little tray, and on the bottom of the tray it's like tape, so it sticks to your skin. It's like really sticky. It's like really strong double-sided tape, and then it clips onto the IV, and then they basically put some like some of that paper tape over top of it just to make sure it's even more secured, and then they wrap it up in like a little like sock, like an arm sock kind of thing. What ended up happening, and I'll show you a picture, is my arm got massively swollen, and it's still swollen, and pus started to come out of my skin. I got these huge welts that were like this big. They were so itchy, and my skin was constantly wet, like it was oozing out oil and this like pussy stuff, and I know it's TMI. It was so gross. So what ended up happening was we had to take off this clip tray, and we had to use steri strips, which are like these little strips of like more secure tape. They still had the adhesive, but they were less I guess abrasive. And then we used paper tape, and we just used lots of bandages, and we would wrap my arm in bandages and then tape the bandages up. So essentially my PICC line didn't even have anything holding it in, which is really bad in the sense that if your PICC line doesn't have anything holding it in, when it moves, it could potentially come out of your vein. So a few times it kind of like started to like, and I was like, oh my god, and I had to like push it back in and hold it down. So I ended up having to get like prescription creams and stuff for it to rub on it, and I had to like clean it. I cleaned it like 4 times a day with like rubbing alcohol, and then I would use like just soap and water, and it was so itchy, oh my god. and then I put this cream on, and it took about like 3 months for it to heal, and even now, as you saw, it's not fully healed. So that happened for the whole time of my treatment, and ever since I finished all 2 years of my cancer treatment, this arm has never been the same. I think because I had 2 PICC lines and both of them got infected, although the first one was worse, that my whole arm, it kind of has like lymphedema, which is like a swelling of like certain limbs caused from bad circulation from cancer treatment. So this arm is just kind of like fatter. Even when I work out and I do weights and stuff, like it just never seems to like super like toned down. Like it's always like kind of swollen, and like there's like some scar tissue, and my skin is just destroyed. So this is my arm that had all the PICC line stuff in it. So you can see how it's kind of like discolored, like the skin is, it's just nasty. And like this is like my normal arm. Like, do you see the difference? Normal, nasty, normal, nasty. It was just a really bad experience because you're already going through so much. You already feel like crap all the time, and then to have another problem on top of that was just awful. So I'll insert a picture right here. So this is what it looked like when it was infected. It's really, really gross, but as you can see, there's a tube going into my arm. It's a really small hole, never bleeds or anything like that. It's super manageable besides the fact that I had this horrible reaction. So I would just give a fair warning to anyone who might have like sensitive skin, or you know, maybe is prone to having more like allergies or allergic to things, that maybe you want to think about that before you get a PICC line, because there are other central line options. There's a port line which goes in your chest, and then a Hickman line, which I think is only specifically for stem cell transplants. As far as I know, most other people who I know who had a PICC line didn't have a problem with it, so maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm just some kind of weird allergic freak. I wouldn't be surprised, I'm allergic to a lot of stuff. So yeah, that was kind of the story of the PICC line. So, you know, one thing that I think was really hard just for me personally is, I feel like I'm talking so quietly, I'm sorry. It's like literally midnight and I don't want to wake anyone up, so I apologize if I'm like whispering. I feel that, yeah, the PICC line was great. It helped with my treatment. I didn't feel as much pain, and it obviously saved, for the most part, my veins in my arm. But seeing this, like, you know, thing, this tubing sticking out of my arm for basically 2 years was a reconfirmation that, wow, I actually have cancer. I'm going through chemo. I'm doing this treatment. Like, fuck, like this is real. So it kind of was like a constant confirmation for me, and constantly seeing this line, having to get it cleaned and whatever, it constantly reminded me that like I wasn't normal and I was going through treatment. And I found that personally really hard, because if you don't have, you know, an IV or whatever, and you're just going to treatment every week, when you're not in treatment, you're just kind of like, okay, I feel shitty, but I look fine. Like, I don't see anything that would hint to the fact that I have this disease. But seeing that line every day was just like really hard for me emotionally, and then also physically taking care of something else on top of the fact that I'm already going through this disease. And then it got infected, and it was just like a really extra thing that I didn't need to deal with in my life. Even all the nurses, whenever I went to chemo, they were like, that's nasty. And I was like, I know, please don't touch it. But yeah, so once my treatment was done, they don't have to do any stitches or anything. They just pull it out, and essentially your skin just kind of heals back together, because it's not really like a deep incision. So they just put some pressure bandages on there, and you keep it on for, I think you kept it on for like a couple of days, and then you take it off, and your skin essentially kind of like velcros itself back together, which is really cool. So like I said, I had this done twice. The first time for my first round of treatment. The second time, before I got my Hickman line, which I had in my chest from my stem cell transplant, I had a secondary PICC line put in, because before I did my stem cell transplant, I had to do 3 months of really, really high intensity chemo. So they had to unfortunately put another line in, which is why I had the second scar on my arm, which also got infected. Not as bad. Sorry about that, my memory card was full, I have to change it. So, oh no, I heard from one of the doctors that they sometimes actually stitch the PICC line onto your skin, so that way you don't have to get the clip tray. But they said it's not really safe to do that, so they just figured out another tape method basically. But unfortunately, it did get infected again. Wasn't as bad, and I caught it earlier this time, and I still had that medication from the first time, so I was able to like manage it early enough. But it was still like, you know, so gross. Like it just happened all over again, which is why I have this clear, basically permanent scarring. And that's basically it. After they took it out, again, nothing really happened. I feel like this video is very uneventful, but that's kind of it. If you guys have any questions about the PICC line or about other central lines, definitely let me know in the comments below. I will try and answer them. I only had the PICC and the Hickman line, which I'll talk about when we get to that part of the story. That's kind of it. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. I forgot to mention, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Even though it's gross and nasty, you should still do it because it really encourages me to keep showing you guys kind of my journey and making content. And I think that's really important for other people who are going through this and maybe have questions, or who want to see the results of someone else who went through it. Yeah, this video is a bit more on the nasty side, but it's real. So I think that that's super important. Okay, thanks. Bye.